Hello, Buhake. Hello, Andre. Hello, Mary. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Let's start. Let's start
Hello.
with a short introduction. Each one of you introduce him herself about what he's doing, where is he, she from, and after that, we will start with the panel with the questions I've prepared. The question you can find in my post. Okay, Mary, let's start with you.
Oh, may I start? Okay. My name is Mary Grygleski. I am based in Chicago. I'm also the president of the Chicago Java Users Group. I've been helping the JUG for actually 10 years. I can't believe. So I'm continue doing it even like throughout COVID and all that. So based in Chicago, we are also hybrid, meaning we're also live streaming too. So anybody can join and I can share with you the information after. I am currently actually on sabbatical, I call it, but I'm also experimenting with a lot of things. Now, I started off as software engineer, and then in Java since like 2000, and then was like initially working for server product and then eventually get into more IT development. I moved to Chicago and then working for different shops. So that was good too, to try to also understand how, on the using people using Java side. So I've worked for companies such as like Chicago Mercantile Exchange, those trading apps or manufacturing companies in Chicago. Then I became a developer advocate at IBM first, and then DataStax, and then also I, joined a consulting firm, and then was helping with an AI practice, starting that. But about a couple months ago, I decided right to move on. I'm now experimenting with different things, but I'm also associated too with the AI Collective, which is a group that's a think tank that not just technologists, right? There are founders, investors, all of these. Is kind of a broad spectrum of people. So that's what I'm doing. I'm now in charge of the global Western Hemisphere, like North America and Latin America, for like expanding, and also like with chapters, all of these things. So if anybody wants to talk about it, you can reach out to me too. So that's about me. So thank you.
Awesome, great.
Thank you.
Um, okay, who is next?
Anybody?
Yeah, come on, Buhake.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Buhake. Sorry for being late. We have, every time there's a thunderstorm, somehow the substation falls down and we keep complaining. Yeah, but I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa. So it's supposed to be summer-ish, but the thunderstorms is every day for some weird reason. I've been Well, I started as an enterprise Java developer, funny enough, from IBM. That's when I started, 19 years ago, 20 years in February. And ever since then, I've been doing enterprise Java development, but I've put my head in many circles. So I've done DevOps, I've done software engineering, pretty much every head that I've been through in the IT industry space. I've done it. Currently, I'm co-organizer of Josie Jog, so the Java user group here in Johannesburg. Josie is a slang term for Johannesburg, and and member of the Jakarta EE and microprofile user group, and I'm one of the co-developer for the Langchain for JCDI, which I presented earlier this morning. So yeah, so primarily everything else have my whole 20 years of experience has always been Java and everything else Java based, everything enterprise Java. And and for the past few years, I've really delved into Jakarta EE. And yeah, currently right now I'm independent, so I kind of self-employed myself. I got retrenched about 2022, so it's been difficult to get in the market. So I've just decided, you know what, I can't waste so much talent that I've accumulated, and the skills that I accumulated for the past 20 years. So let me at least give it to the community and also be part of the community. So right now, I'm trying to focus on Jakarta EE and AI. And now that Jakarta EEs have created a proposal for Jakarta EE AI framework. I'm also trying to contribute there wherever I can. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. Great. Okay. And
I am the last one.
yeah, that's one. Waiting for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. My name is Sacco. I have been working with Java since 2007, so more or less the same level of experience that the previous speakers. I work it with different languages. Most of them are connected with the JVM. I work now. I'm using Kotlin, for example, and it's not Java. And in the past, I worked with Scala or Clojure or something like that, Groovy, and many other things. I wrote some books, some of them related with, I don't know, LDAP with the Spring Boot or the use of Scala or Spring Data. I wrote some articles and I created some courses. Most of the time, I try to research new things, and I also teach in one university some subject related with Java. The basics like stack, queue, and many other structures and algorithms, but without using the predefining structure like, I don't know, the stack on Java. It's like, okay, create your own stack and try to understand how works this structure behind the scenes. And this is a short introduction.
Cool. Great. So now that we know you, let's start. First, I want to quickly overview what we already know, and then we shall proceed with the questions. So what do we already know? We know that we can use AI for code completion. It can assist us. It can generate basic structures, project scaffold, generate the skeleton. We can use it for code review, refactoring. We can generate tests, and we can have tools based on AI to go over what we did and give us feedback. We can create documentation. We get explanation for what others did, what we do. And we can even use agentic IDEs that include agents inside that do lots of work. And we can even use agentic IDE for implementing the spec-driven development, as it happens now with Kiro, and JetBrains follow the same type of support for spec-driven development. Now, the first question, the title is Developer Skills and Roles. What core skills will Java developers need in an era dominated by spec-driven and AI-augmented development? How will AI reshape the role of Java developers? Will coding become orchestration, like orchestra? Will system thinking outweigh coding? What does collaboration look like when developers, product managers, designers, and AI agents all contribute to the specs? Okay, so who wants to start?
From experience, I would say AI won't replace us per se. That's one fact. But we will need to have some kind of skill set to validate the result that agents specify for us. And well, like today we have test-driven development where people can create certain algorithms and try and test if it actually performs according to the requirements. We will probably have that kind of solution put in place to validate the output generated by the AI if it actually conforms to what the user prompts. But ideally, for example, in the enterprise space, your code can work as expected, but there's a lot of fundamental things like the non-functional requirement that you have to think of. So, for example, if you do concurrency, and the AI generates code, and then there's a lock somewhere, the AI will not pick that up. So for entry-level developers, that will be a bottleneck, but for experienced developers who understand the intricacies of how the codes are ran from, for example, in a cloud-native space versus the on-premises device and, the challenges that they experience on each of them, that experience, the AI cannot replace you for that. So you won't need some type of that level of experience to actually double check the data response from the AI. So kind of the same similar thing is when you do a pull request, there's somebody who actually vets your pull request and says I approve or I disapprove, and we'll have it in the same manner as well. So yeah, that's one. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has something else to add, but ideally, yes.
Yeah. So may I say, I think for me, right, I think there wouldn't be any change in terms of what the students, let's say a junior developers or somebody coming into the field, that they need to change, that they don't need to learn. In fact, they need to learn the same kind of core things that we've always been learning as a developer, Java, all of these things. And also because the LLM itself is non-deterministic. So even though it sounds like it's going to do something fascinating, all of these things, but who knows, right? It's actually, we all know there's hallucinations. We all know if you ask the LLM 100 times, all the answers come back not the same every time. And it's because of the, fuzzy logic that it is behind the scenes. So which means, we actually, yes, we can leverage on AI to do code generation, doing all that, but it actually requires a higher intelligence for us to make sure that it is correct. Just like Buhake was just saying, we need people to understand and test and make sure it is correct. But I think I have to say too is that it does kind of shorten the time, especially for tedious type of tasks. And those are the kind of things that tends to be, we're tired, we make mistakes, something like that. We can rely on AI to help us do that, but we actually we are in control. Human beings are in control and making sure what gets generated is correct. And also, like things such as distributed computing, I still do not think the agent can kind of do all of these complicated coding that's required of distributed computing. How do you deal with different state transition of data, all of these things? So those things still require us, right, to learn it and have this advanced thinking. I mean, ultimately, we are in control, but we can definitely leverage AI for what it is good at. It's a lot of the tedious thing that we can rely on it to do. But it doesn't mean we need to be lazy. In fact, we cannot be lazy. We need to be overlooking, making sure the AI is doing the right thing. It is what I feel. So, yeah.
I agree with both of you because in our case, if we write a prompt and say, okay, I want to create, I don't know, an API with a CRUD and with these fields and create me the DTOs or the records, the entity, the POM, everything, for us, it's simple to detect if the code generated it's awful or it's great. We know, we have the experience building different applications, so it's easy for us. But for a junior developer, perhaps they don't have the skills to detect these kind of things. And most of the time, they deploy or release something thinking that everything is okay, and they don't have the experience to detect this kind of problem like scalability, availability, reliability, it's resilient, the application or not. What happens if I do a HTTP request with to another API and the other API is not working? What happened with this? And the LLM could suggest some things in some cases. In another ones, no. And if it's our responsibility, inquire to the ChatGPT or Copilot or something like that. Okay, try to improve my code to use a cache with caffeine or Redis or something like that. I feel that some companies, because I having contact with people of different companies, don't pay attention to this kind of thing. It's like okay, we have AI. I have a lot of junior developers. We need to release new feature quickly. Use the AI for everything, and at some point it's okay because you release new features, but in a period of time, the problems will appear in the future. It's not like magic. I think these kind of things for now.
Okay. Actually, I heard similar thoughts, so I believe we can. Well, let's move forward. So the next question is about documentation and system design. How should teams document their system to harness AI-powered development fully? Are formal specs like EARS, EARS, a spec for requirements, writing, UML, and so on, are they becoming essential? Is it something we should learn when we start using AI? So who wants to start?
Yeah.
Documentation will still exist. That skill set is still essential, but I think if in terms of prompt engineering, we'll just have to figure out how to align the prompts with the specifications, basically. So, for example, in my case, I use AI to basically, every time there's a new framework that comes out, I tell the AI to go read it and highlight me all the new features, how it functions, and give me a reference point of where I can actually go read further, post and stuff like that. So the documentation will always be required because, like I said, LLM requires content to actually produce results. So developers will have to learn how to create a very structured documentation that LLM can easily ingest and hopefully not hallucinate based on the documentation. And we'll have to learn how to be more precise in the documentation so that, not only developers will be confused, but also LLMs will not be confused. So yes, and then create prompts that the LLM can actually know what to look at if they ingest such kind of information and what will be useful data to actually return back to the developers to use. So I see, for example, I know Gemini is very strong when it comes to if for example you never learned Kotlin, Gemini on that Google ecosystem kind of knows how to read all the Kotlin requirement documents and all of that features that exist on Kotlin, and then step by step kind of teaches you what features you can use on Kotlin and how to start writing code into if you do, for example, Android development with Kotlin, it's from the very beginning to end using the latest specs. And I've tried with Gemini and I've tried with Claude and I've tried to check GPT, and Gemini, I could quickly write an app like within minutes. Whereas with the other two, there's always like one or two things that's missing, something is not compiling, some features, and then you have to prompt it and say, oh, this doesn't work. Then it has to rethink and then fetch data online to see if it has missed something and stuff like that. Whereas Gemini, I think the code base, how Google probably trains it is everything that's on the Google Cloud ecosystem already automatically feeds to Gemini, and I think they do a good job in kind of like formatting what the Gemini receives and what Gemini can produce back. Because for Android development, it's much quicker with Gemini than with other LLMs. So, but there is extensive documentation, and they put code blocks example of how to best use certain features that they've added into Kotlin, into the Android SDK. So yeah, there will always be documentations. It's just that we'll have to learn how to do structured prompt engineering between how the AI agent pulls the data and how to ingest it and what to look for in order to bring a result that it can execute back.
Okay. Who is next?
Well, I agree. Yeah, Buhake. Basically, too, I also look at the prompt becomes important, especially in LLM. But actually, in some ways, I like to think that if we have to prompt it quite exactly the way it should be, then it really isn't intelligent. There's nothing intelligent. Basically, the intelligence is in us to know what we want, and we need to communicate through natural language in a very proper way, right? To tell the LLM what to do. But of course, then the LLM then would take your request, right? And then the request has to be crafted up correctly. Then it will know what to do and put together all this stuff for us, So I think in terms of documentation, likewise, we can be a bit casual in terms of what we need and doing that using proper communication, telling the LLM. And so then it will then go and generate the documentation for us. I think we can still rely on LLM actually do all the documentation, but it is very true. We need to craft it up so then guide the LLM to present it in a nice way, right? To kind of enhance the context and all of these things. And then you were asking too, as far as specs, right? Are they important? I think maybe like to a certain extent, and depending on the systems we're working with, right? Does it require maybe certain kinds of spec? Is it relevant for that particular context you are in? So to me, I think the specs are like depending on what you're trying to produce in the documentation and the system. I feel that's how I feel. So, but ultimately too, we still need to be guiding the LLM to produce the documentation, but we don't need to do again some of the redundant things and things of that nature. Sometimes it takes a lot of time for us to do certain things, and we can guide the LLM to do it. So there's a certain amount of productivity too that we can gain by having the LLM do the heavy lifting for us. That's how I feel. So.
Okay.
The last one. I agree with both of you because we know we need to define the correct prompt at some point to define the documentation or to create something. For example, I ask to ChatGPT to write something, a short program with Python, and I have a result which I not agree. I test the same with Gemini, and Gemini produce a source code, which more or less is something like I could push to production. And the same happened in the reverse side. It's like, okay, I have this kind of method or application, and which is the best alternative to present to a new partner in my company and explain most of the details. Of course, I specified in the prompt, like, okay, this application uses Spring Boot and many other things, how you can think is the best alternative. I use it like to a validator in terms to, okay, I have an idea more or less how it's the best alternative to do it, but I want to check with an AI what he suggests to me in order to improve the documentation of the company. But again, we need to know what we want.
Okay, then. I want to skip to the last question because we are running out of time. So the last question is about testing, QA, and reliability. So will AI transform the way we test applications? Can AI generate and maintain test suites, detect flaky tests, and improve coverage autonomously? How teams will validate and verify changes produced by autonomous or semi-autonomous agents, AI agents that doing stuff, coding and so on inside the IDE or somewhere else. So testing, QA, and reliability. This is the question. What do you think? Is it going to change? Can we count on AI to maintain tests, detect flaky tests, improve tests? What do you think?
Yes, ideally, AI we will improve on testing in the future with AI. You can the same way we do, we write unit tests and integration tests to validate that our projects or our modules that we've written, whether they're all pass or if there's a failure, highlight the failure so that we can fix it and improve on it. Ideally, yes, we will do it, but will AI generate tests autonomously and that we can reliably, say, what, generate the test, generate the test cases that you can use for all your generated code? I don't think we're in that level where we can trust it yet. But ideally, here is how I envision it that we're going to use it. For example, in an organization, we'll probably create MCP tools, testing tools that the AI will probably trigger to reliably test the code that is generated, and also examples that the AI probably, the agent will probably generate. So based on those two calls, we'll probably check like which agent actually ran the test, what code that the agent ran, what was the outcome, did it pass, did it fail? Then we will have to basically observe it, put it into have it logged so that we can actually monitor exactly what was generated, what was the data that was provided, what was the outcome. And yes, then it's kind of an automated testing for the AI agents because they know this is the code they generated. Let me call some MCP tools, let it running. If there's a failure, obviously do not publish it or commit it wherever. And then if there is, then escalate it for a human for human validation, which we call human in the loop. So a human will ultimately now check, okay, this passed. Is it acceptable according to whatever requirements or standards the developers agree on? If it's successful, approve it. If it's not, then it will have to go back to the agent and say, even though this works, I do not agree because 1, 2, 3, can you try and can you reapply again and try again? So yes, ultimately, we're not yet in a phase where the AI agent can do everything and they will just leave it to itself and say, you write the code, you write the test cases, you generate the data that you can use for testing, and if all of them pass, proceed to production. We're not there yet. There will be some human intervention. I believe that we will write MCP tools for the AI to do those testing. The same way we have MCP tools for almost every programming languages these days. Spring has MCP tools, so Python has MCP tools that AI can use to generate code or to, better optimize certain projects. So I believe that's the route that we will be going to, and you'll see a lot of these tools popping up into the MCP marketplace. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Marie, what do you think about?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, what Buhake said. Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. It's the current state of the agents of the LLM are just not at the level of what we think we can truly trust it to do to complete a task completely, like autonomously, right? And so I'd like to also quote too, because I subscribe to this newsletter, deeplearning.ai. Is Andrew Ng, who is based in UC Berkeley, right? He's an AI expert and very, very good too. But he talked about the agents, right? There's agentic design patterns. So one of which is a reflection type of implementation. So which means let's say we need the agent to do coding. So we always have another one is a critic. Is what today's term, I hear a lot of the Python folks are calling it eval agent. So in other words, you want to do some task of coding, let's say, and you need to have an eval agent. So the eval agent is the one that's you use an agent to try to make sure that the coding agent is doing the right work, right thing, right? So you do that reflectively, meaning you don't trust it the first time. The eval agent will go and evaluate the first result. It's not right. Then you also you tell it, you say, okay, coding agent, this isn't right. Can you fix it? So the coding agent will in turn ask the LLM to fix things. And so doing this multiple times, like in a reflection type of pattern, eventually you'll be able to get good results, right? Or better results or close to accurate, kind of like that. So that might be some way, that can be leveraged on this kind of pattern, like agentic type of pattern. But anyway, so that's one thing. But ultimately too, let's say, right, that's only say some task, but ultimately, if you have the whole test suites and all of these things, and you can probably also have agents to handle test suites and all of these things. But like Buhake said, we're just not at that level of able to trust it completely. So therefore, it still requires human in the loop to go in and make sure it is being done correctly. We are still the overlooking kind of supervisor to supervise these agents are doing the right job. But certainly, too, having this kind of autonomous agent, semi-autonomous, let's say, will also reduce some of the time that we need to go through some of these more like repetitive, redundant type of tasks or steps in doing all the work. So that's how I look at it. It's more like collaboratively between humans and coder and agents, we can kind of have it done maybe faster and cover more things too. So that's the thing. I think we can rely on AI to help us cover things that sometimes as humans we have limitations, right? It's like us having blind spot, and we just have the agents coming in, fill in those blind spots and expand what we cannot do at certain times and do it much faster, for example. But we still need to overlook and say in the testing case, I think that's how I look at it. We just need to be smart enough to make sure we use this AI agent is just another tool. Use it effectively and productively. This is what I look at it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Another aspect that we can think is, okay, we need to validate the result of the AI. But in the case that when the AI not exist, who validate our test? Who test our test? This is so there is a tool or a practice that could help us as testers and the AI to validate the results. There is a technique or a tool like it's mutation test. Perhaps you know it, PyTest. The idea of this kind of test is modify some instructions or lines of code in our application and see what happened with the test, if everything continue working or not. This is a simple way, because you don't need to write nothing. It just include dependency in your POM file or your Gradle properties and a little modifications, and you don't need to do nothing and check if your tests are effective or not. What happens if someone introduced modifications in your source code? So in a way, it's simple to us to validate if the test that was created for a human or a AI are correct or not. It's like a double check. And there is some tools like Report Portal, which use machine learning to detect possible problems. You execute your test suite and push all the result, all the logs to Report Portal, and Report Portal check and have the historical executions of an application, so you can train this tool and say, okay, if you detect on the logs this pattern of this string, mark as a failure on the execution or something like that. It's an old tool because I think have more or less 10 years, yeah, or more or less.
Mhm. Good.
Well, interesting. Well, what can I say? The only thing I can say that I've never imagined in my whole life that in my life, during my life, we will have AI the way we have. Uh, Even smarter than what we see in science fiction movies. So who knows what will happen? But for now, yeah, I'm with you with what you see, um, and we are away out of time, so we will stop here. I want to thank you for the talks and for the contribution to the panel and for your insight. And yeah, what can I say? I will wrap it all that we will have the video for this panel online, and a year from now, who knows? I mean, I
Yeah,
stopped thinking about the
yeah,
future. I mean,
yeah.
things happen. They surprise me,
That's
and
right. Yeah,
who knows? But it's a fascinating um, era. Uh, just think about what is ahead and how things are going to change
yeah,
dramatically in our domain, especially because we care about our domain, but also in other domains. So it's very
yeah.
exciting. And again, I wish you all, first of all, health, after health, peace, and well-being, and thank you for being with us. To you, the panelists, Marie, Buhake, and yeah, and Andrea, and all, everyone else, all the attendees that joined us. So thank you all, and have a great morning, night. Well, depends on where you are. Morning,
Morning.
okay, morning. Have a great morning. Good morning.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Andrea, also good morning. Buhake and me, it's good night. So
Oh, that's right.
yeah, we have a
Yeah.
question. Just let me see. Someone? No, no. Okay, okay,
Maybe has a hand
That
raised.
was, yeah.
okay. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch. And bye bye.
Okay.